A busy, noisy intersection, and for most of us, a number of visual indicators to let motorists know when to cross the intersection, to show pedestrians when it's safe to use the crosswalk. But what if you can't see those signals? Four Milwaukee intersections have audible signals that let the visually impaired know the walk light is on, to give them the same time advantage in crossing the street. Two are near the Badger Association of the Blind, which teaches travel skills.
Once someone has gotten to a point where they're traveling indoors in their home environment safely, feel good about that, we move them to the outdoor environment, and then we start getting into the street crossing stuff. And this is where most people have the most anxiety when it comes to travel, and understandably so. But I teach them the strategies to get across these streets as safely as possible and work with them until they feel pretty confident about it. And one of the things that we do is I teach people how to assess an intersection before they ever cross it. Okay, first thing you want to do, Jen, when you're approaching the intersection is to come all the way up to the corner. Okay, once you've approached the corner, you want to double check with traffic and make sure that you're parallel to traffic.
Larissa says it's a complex problem, and the number of strategies she teaches can be as varied as the intersections. Even finding the push button can be a problem. So can crossing streets that aren't exactly parallel.
That illustrates actually something that I don't like about these push buttons being so far out of the line of travel, is that you do get your line of travel listening to parallel traffic, and then you have to get out of that to find the push button itself, and then you kind of have to reestablish your line of travel again, which is pretty difficult.
The audible signals give off different sounds for a reason. The chirp indicates the street is in a north and south orientation. A coo means the crossing travels in an east-west direction. James Ito, Milwaukee's chief traffic and lighting design engineer, showed us how he accepted a challenge from Larissa after a safety workshop. A challenge for the man who studies intersection design and signaling to see what it's like to use his ears instead of his eyes.
Well, I think I've been always interested, Tom, in pedestrian safety. That's one thing that traffic engineers probably are accused of not considering many times. They say that we're more concerned about motorists rather than pedestrians. And I know lately we in the city, including the mayor, has been a proponent for pedestrian safety. I think it opened a new sphere of traffic engineering for me. I realized that motorists, the average driver, is not really aware of what to do when they encounter a person with a white cape.
How does his experience translate to traffic and signal design?
There's a lot of new technology that's coming into the forefront, so we'll be looking at that for us in the city as to what kind of equipment we want to install. There's also a lot of activity nationwide to foster, if you will, or make traffic engineers more aware of the needs of those who are visually impaired and or blind.
The exercise that Jim Ito and I went through, where he actually came out and wanted to learn about how to cross streets blindfolded, was just priceless. And I give him all the credit for kind of breaking the mold and doing this with me. And I think that the more the decision makers learn about the issues behind blind travel, the more that they'll understand that it's pretty complex, and that there are things that we need to be thinking about in all situations.
A reminder that yielding isn't just a common courtesy. It's the law that motorists must stop before approaching closer than 10 feet to those who are sight impaired.
State statutes clearly states that anyone operating a vehicle must yield to a sight impaired pedestrian who is carrying either a walking stick or cane in white color or white with red trim, and who is basically extending that walking stick or cane or raising it in a direction that they are ready to cross the streets. It also has an effect with anybody who's walking with a guided dog. The fact that a pedestrian may be violating any of the laws applicable to the pedestrians does not relieve the operator of a vehicle from the duties imposed by this subsection.
We need to be mindful of the pedestrians, and also at the same time, if you can do that, taking care of those with white canes will come automatically.
There are 14 different models of hydrants owned and maintained by the Milwaukee Water Works. The utilities service as hydrants in Milwaukee, Greenfield, Hales Corners, and St. Francis.
In those total areas, we have 19,687 hydrants, and we maintain each one of those. In maintaining those, we are required to inspect each hydrant at least once every 2 years, and we're required by the State of Wisconsin Public Service Commission to do so, and we have to report on that activity. So we have 4 full-time hydrant service workers, and their job is dedicated to inspecting each of those hydrants and reporting if there are any defects that we need to correct.
I service the hydrant. I make sure it works, that it doesn't leak, that it operates the way it's supposed to. If there's any problems that I can't fix on the job site, I write a work ticket up, and the crews fix them up later at their convenience. They fix them up on repair tickets, including pulling the hydrant out and changing the hydrant or whatever I have to do. And then I start recording the information on the Palm Pilot, and there is a barcode on the back of the hydrant. That barcode will be matched on the barcode on the plat sheet, and then I will record, and we know that's the hydrant that we're doing is the right hydrant. It can handle 2 to 3 weeks of work. I do about whatever problems arise. I usually average about 15 to 17 hydrants a day. That's servicing them and recording the information. And about 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks or whenever they want it, I take it into the shop and they put it into the mainframe.
The Palm Pilots and a special computer program allow the waterworks to keep track of the large number of hydrants in a special database. The idea for the barcodes came from a group of employees who looked at what information to collect and how to identify each hydrant.
And basically the best idea we came up with was a number, a separate number for each hydrant. And then the next logical step was a barcode, so that we could easily identify a scan in the field, and also there would be the human readable number that maybe a constituent could refer to. So if they call in a problem on the hydrant, we would know where it is. We know from a database perspective that there's only one number per hydrant. Makes identification easier in data gathering, so that now we can go in the database and find certain things out about our hydrants that we didn't know before, such as an average age of a hydrant, how many of a certain make or model we have. We can make sure hydrants are getting flushed within their regular cycle. Basic data gathering so that we know what's going on with our hydrants out in the field.
Well, with 19,687 hydrants, a lot of record keeping. And so instead of having everything on paper and filed in paper files, this allows us to streamline it. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to sort the information. We wanted to be able at a moment's notice pull up data instead of researching through records. We wanted to have more specific records so that we could even add more information that we needed as we went along, and saying, well, wouldn't it be nice to have that? So we started to build that, and that data is so fast it lets us do that.
You may have noticed something extra on some hydrants. A white-colored ring indicates fire department use only. If used, water must be pumped out of the standpipe so it doesn't freeze. An orange ring indicates the user has a city permit and must use a backflow device to prevent contaminants from being drawn into the water system. Green indicates a private hydrant, one not part of the waterworks system, usually installed by large companies, and the responsibility of the property owner to maintain. Blue means it's the last hydrant on a dead-end section of a water main, one flushed every spring. And yellow means it's temporarily out of service awaiting repair. The fire department is always notified.
You figure with close to 20,000 hydrants that at any one time we have less than a dozen that would be out of service. at any one time, I think that's remarkable. And our hydrant service workers will inspect all of those hydrants in about a 15 or 16-month period. So I think it's a very good fine-tuned system.
The workers not only check the hydrants, they also look at the water to check for sediment. But their main focus is on making sure the hydrants are ready to be used in an emergency, and they say they are.
Oh yes, you hope you never need them, but if you do, they want to work. They have to work.
The corner of 92nd and Beloit Road was known as Beloit Corners when it was a rural trading center for area farmers. The triangle intersection is now at the northwest corner of the Euclid Park neighborhood. There are many longtime residents in this area, among them Dave Kimmel, former Milwaukee Public Works Commissioner.
Well, we've been here, Tom, for 43 years now. This July. We built in 1959. What attracted me, first of all, I was a city employee, and I had to live in a city, and this whole area was farmland, and it was opening up, and so I had a chance to buy a lot and build a house in the city. So that was number one attraction. Number two, the freeway system was being planned and constructed at that time, and I knew there'd be an interchange right nearby, and I said, this is tremendous access. So that was the second reason. The third reason was the school system.
Schools like the former 88th Street School, now the Milwaukee French Immersion School, also drew other longtime residents.
Well, I've been a resident of this neighborhood about 43 years. In fact, the block we're on right now, I was the first original home on this block. This neighborhood evolved somewhere in the late 50s to early 60s. It was generally all young people moved in here at that time, starting new families. And we all pretty well worked together in the neighborhood. The reason I like this neighborhood is we have all the conveniences you can imagine out here.
A number of apartment complexes and smaller four-family units ring much of the neighborhood. Inside that ring, primarily single-family homes, mostly ranch styles. Euclid Park runs from 84th to 92nd, Morgan to Oklahoma. The Neighborhood Association also includes the area to 76th Street, a neighborhood on city maps called Highwood Estates.
The Euclid Park Neighborhood Association is relatively new compared to other associations around town. We are approximately 3 years old. Some of the things we do is we have annually we have a Halloween party at Evergreen Square, which is a low-income elderly housing project. We also have at Euclid Park in the spring around Easter time what we call our Easter egg hunt. Those are some of our social functions. Once a year we have a gathering of all our membership to bring them up to date on what's happening as far as police and fire protection in the area is concerned.
There are about 1,000 homes in the area. The association has about 70 members and wants to grow.
There needs to be a coming together of the community so everybody's informed of what's going on. And I think everybody needs to watch out for everyone else in this neighborhood. And we need to bring that together, and that's why our organization is working hard to provide that.
I've been in the neighborhood a little over 40 years. What I like about it, it's nice and clean. People are taking care of their lawns, plant flowers, and for the most part, keep it in very good order. It is close to South Ridge. I do like shopping there. We're on a bus line. Bus line is close. There are many schools in the area. People are friendly, I would say. But with the organization here, we're trying to increase that. Let's get to know our neighbors a little bit better. And I think that would be a good thing.
The small county park that gives the neighborhood its name is not highly visible. Tucked between the apartments and homes, it's named after Euclid Avenue.
Why Euclid? I would guess Euclid Avenue is named after the Greek mathematician who is considered the father of geometry, modern geometry, Euclid.
Lot sizes here come in all shapes and sizes due to the layout of the streets. Some blocks are lined up in neat and tidy rows, but the developer also put in a number of gently curving streets through the center of the neighborhood.
He has to fit the street pattern to the topography. That's number one. You're limited in what you can do, and the topography is pretty steep here. We're near the highest point in the city here at near 92nd and Morgan. So we've got quite a bit of slope. In fact, you go in my backyard, you'll see the houses behind me are about 6 feet higher than mine. So that pretty much is left to the developer. And this was what everybody was doing after World War II, curvilinear street pattern. So that's why it's that way. It's a very confusing neighborhood, actually. I live on the corner of Holt and Holt. Holt Avenue, as we say, bends the corner around my house. So I have Holt on this side of the house, I have Holt on the other side.
Unlike many Milwaukee neighborhoods, Euclid Park doesn't have a lot of historical landmarks. St. Matthias, which is thoroughly contemporary, houses a congregation which dates to the 1850s. And this building, believed to have been a tavern for well over 100 years.
There was a tavern on that corner, and there's still a tavern there. And the stories that I hear from our church, St. Matthias, right across kitty corner, is that on Sunday mornings the priest used to have to go over to the tavern and pull the guys out of the tavern and get them in the church in the morning. So it's infamous or famous, and that's about the most historic thing I know about in this neighborhood. I think the people are the highlights. We're the old-timers now, and what we're seeing in the neighborhood is a turnover. This is a perfect place to raise children. And we're seeing a lot of families with young children moving into the neighborhood, and that's great. And our neighborhood association tries to have activities that suit both old-timers like myself, who perhaps are more interested in property values and crime and preservation of the neighborhood, and the younger people who want a viable neighborhood with activities and things for the kids. So,
my opinion, it's an ideal place to live. We have everything we need right in this general area. Also, what's nice here is we are about 30 minutes from any place in the city.
That's why we're here. Why we're still here, let me answer that question. You know, like many city employees, I'm retired. I can move out of the city. This is one of the best neighborhoods around, and I really like this neighborhood. I like the people. That's why we're still here.
There are over 2 million breast cancer survivors in the U.S. today, but the cause and means for a cure remain unknown, and the risks remain high. With 1 out of 9 women expected to develop breast cancer, it's important to have a Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
It gives us an opportunity to showcase a specific cancer site and help people within the communities just learn a little bit more about that specific cancer, how maybe they can detect it early, what types of testing needs to be done. I'm learning a little bit more about what they can do for themselves as advocates, how they can go and speak with their physician to just be able to create a better health wellness for themselves.
The American Cancer Society works to provide hope, funds research in the battle, and offers answers. If you or someone you know has been touched by cancer, you could call and ask for a navigator to get advice or answers to some of your questions.
Our big showcase program that we have is our Navigator program. It's actually comprised of many different components, one being the empowerment workshops, which are workshops the American Cancer Society does within the communities to help them learn how to cope with pain management, financial matters, or whatever it is that we can do to help them, to educate them about cancer in general, to empower them to make educated decisions. We also have a person on site at our offices that is the navigator that people can call in at any time to make requests for if it's information that they need, they're looking for local resources, maybe they need transportation services, they're looking for a local support group. That person is there to connect them with those types of resources in their community. We also have our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-ACS-2345, which can be accessed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if at 3 o'clock in the morning you wake up and you need information, there is a healthcare professional trained there that can answer your types of questions, can help navigate you to the information you need. And if it's actually during the local times that the offices are open, they will connect you to your local office.
What about conflicting news reports? You've seen the headlines, "Self-exams don't cut cancer deaths." The Society's website includes a story which reported mammograms do not save lives.
The American Cancer Society guidelines have not changed. Starting at age 20, we do recommend that women do the self-breast exam every month. Starting at age 40, we ask that women also include the self-breast exam with the mammogram. But also starting from age 20 on, we also recommend that women, when they go and get their annual exam, that they also do the clinical breast exam, which is where the physician or the nurse practitioner would do the breast exam for them to find any suspicious areas if they're even there. We recommend the three-prong approach because no matter what happens, the best prevention is the early detection. The sooner you can find it, the easier it is to cure it. And when things like this come up in regard to the different studies saying, well, no, maybe this isn't necessarily something that would be beneficial, we recommend women to really make an educated decision with their physician.
The American Cancer Society offers a Look Good, Feel Better program to combat the appearance-related side effects of cancer treatment, including coping with hair loss. There's a Tell a Friend program in which volunteers talk with friends and encourage them to get a mammogram. There's Reach to Recovery, a peer support program so that no woman has to face breast cancer alone. One person who really does know how it feels to deal with breast cancer is Janet Cron, diagnosed when she was just 28. Janet, who oversees services for Alzheimer's and dementia patients at Lakewood Care Center, is a volunteer with the Reach to Recovery program.
After my diagnosis and my treatment with breast cancer, it seemed apparent that I needed to do something with this experience and something good had to come out of it. So I was looking around for different groups to join and support groups and things like that, and I stumbled across the Reach to Recovery program and really liked it because it had to do with women who were newly diagnosed would be seen by someone who's gone through the experience, who has similar situations, and that they can kind of offer support and help to them along their journey. When I was initially diagnosed, my best friend's mother, who was a Reach to Recovery volunteer, came to visit me, and she was probably one of the best people I had because she was very focused me on what was important and what I had to ask and what I had to, to get through and stuff like that. She was just a wonderful resource. A lot of it is listening, I guess, listening about their story and letting them know that they're going to make it through it and that there's things out there to help them make it through it. We show them different resources in terms of if they need help with getting a prosthesis, if they need help finding a wig, if they need help with some of the things that the side effects from the chemo and so forth like that. There's products out there and things that can help them. We try to help steer them that way. Just listen and try to help them with anything that they might be going through. When you're newly diagnosed, you look around and most of the people you know have not been going through the situation that you're going to be going through, and they don't know how to help you, where if you talk to somebody who's been through the situation and the journey, they can usually help you focus on your energy and know that you can get through it.
The Heritage Health Center on Dr. Martin Luther King Drive offers medical help, including mammograms, to low-income women. Nurse practitioner Ruby Robinson says early detection is the key, and money shouldn't stand in the way for uninsured or underinsured women.
We are part of the Wisconsin Well Women's Program, and we're with a collaborative effort with the City of Milwaukee Health Department to screen all women or any woman in the state of Wisconsin between the ages of 35 and 64 for breast cancer. Have to be a state of Wisconsin resident, meet certain income and family size guidelines, and when you call the City Health Department at 286-2133, they screen you right over the phone and tell you if you're eligible right away and make your appointment. The women should get past what they've heard. Many women say it's so painful. One woman said, well, my breast was flat for a week. Well, all those are bogus. It's uncomfortable, and sometimes the amount of pressure they have to apply because of the different densities of breast tissue can be uncomfortable. But once you get past that, the knowing that you don't have breast cancer makes it all that worth it. I was on the internet and saw an article where it said that 30% of women aged 50 and older were not being screened for breast cancer, and I don't understand why not. Many reasons is financial, but this program takes the financial burden off the woman. The mammograms are free. And because of recent treatment dollars that were given to Wisconsin, you can also get treatment if there's a need for it. I just think that it's important that women get it done, and I'm glad that we are part of the program, and it has been very insightful for me and heartwarming to reach out and help women who would have otherwise still been sitting at home thinking there was no help for them.
One of the most important judgment calls is made by the radiologist, who reads and interprets the mammograms. Dr. John Milbrath is an experienced radiologist who, as an unpaid volunteer, reads all mammograms from the City of Milwaukee screening program.
It's a way to return to the community things that the community has given to me. So it's something that doesn't take a lot of my time, and I enjoy doing it.
In more than 10 years, Dr. Milbrath has read the x-rays of almost 20,000 women and discovered about 100 cancers, about the percentage he says could be expected. In the last year or so, the x-rays have also been looked at by a computer.
And a computer then marks on the mammogram where there are abnormalities, or actually a piece of paper that's a copy of the mammogram. So it marks where it thinks masses may be or calcifications. Then when I'm interpreting the mammogram, I don't look at what the computer said. The first look, I make up my mind as to what I think I see. Then I look at what the computer says and double look at those sites and perhaps change my mind or say, no, it's nothing. But it's a good way, particularly in a practice like mine, where I'm the only person here. It's really another set of eyes to look at the mammogram. Today, the best test is a mammogram. It's not 100%, but it's very accurate. Physical examination done by somebody who knows what they're doing, a physician usually, but it can be done by technologists, nurses. And then thirdly, breast self-exam. It's those three that are the best test. We have another tool, ultrasound, that we've been doing for a long period of time. And there is current evidence that ultrasound may play a role, particularly in women who have very dense breasts. It's not very often that an ultrasound can find a cancer by itself, where the mammogram and physical exam are negative, but it does happen, and we've had several cases in which we only could find the cancer on an ultrasound exam.
Dr. Milbrath agrees the three-step approach is critical: visits to a doctor, self-exam, and a mammography. And he says there's new hope for even earlier detection with new technologies.
Today we find it usually 2 to 4 years before we can feel it on physical exam, but the cancer, by the time it's even found on a mammogram, is there for a relatively long period of time, probably 6 to 8 years. We're finding very small cancers now. The patients are, almost all of them are cured, but if we get a more sensitive test that can find cancers even earlier in that 6 to 8 year window in which the cancer's there now, but we have not been able to find it. I think in the future there'll be a better test that will find cancers even sooner than we can on mammography.